Yes, people. We're back again. Raps on TV, reporting fresh out of London, bringing you the best in boxing. Slightly packed weekend, last weekend just gone, but looking forward to kicking it down with you guys today. Packed agenda. Not the massive amount of fights in terms of the name and prestige, but just some good technical fights, and looking forward to breaking those down. First on the agenda is going to be the preview with the Warren card, which is Yard, Dubois, and Liam Williams. Also going to get into the review of the NXT Gen management show, which had Jordan Gill and Anthony Sims Jr. featuring Rick Paul. And we're also going to get into the Bivol versus Smith Jr., as well as the undercard on that show. So I'm here with my co-host, Rafi. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. So how about yourself?
Not too bad.
Yeah, and looking forward to another weekend of boxing coming up. And obviously there's a massive fight with Bivol and Smith Jr. Mm-hmm. And off the back of that, of course, Royal Albert Hall in the doldrums for a while with regards to boxing specifically, but back again at Royal Albert Hall too.
Good. And obviously we had the Canelo Jacobs press conference, so that's just that's concluded. So looking forward to getting into that. But guys, listen, we've got a guest with us in the studio today. Really happy to have this guy in the studio with us. Boxing promoter, boxing manager, has got an exciting stable, currently managing a world champion. He's from my neck of the woods as well, so overly proud that he represents in that front. Here with Michael Amoo of Streetwise Management. Thank you very much for joining us, Mickey.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And listen, I guess the best thing is just to kick off in terms of finding out a bit about yourself. What's your professional background? What got you into the sport of boxing? Are you a fan? What's your story?
Well, everybody's a fan of boxing. I mean, boxing is the sport every other sport aspires to be. Mm-hmm. You know, when you go to a boxing show, everybody wants to be ringside. Everyone wants to be front and centre. So, yeah, obviously I'm a boxing fan first and foremost. But it wasn't my first foray into business. I was in the car industry previously, and it was a chance meeting with a young fighter who recently just won a Commonwealth title, Philip Bowes. It was a chance meeting coming out of a barber's.
As you do.
As you do. And he
Dave referenced there.
Yeah, and he was an amateur boxer at the time, and I really didn't know much about the boxing business at that time. This was going back 12, 13 years. And he asked me for a job. He knew that I had my own car firm, and he asked me for a job. And I said, what are you doing now? And he said, well, I'm a boxer. I said, why don't you want to continue boxing? He said, there's no money. I'm an amateur boxer. There's no money. And I said, but what do you want to do? Do you want to be a professional? Do you want to reach the pinnacle of boxing? What do you want to do? And he said, yeah, that's what I want to be. I said, well, if that's the case, then look, you know what I mean? You got to follow your dreams. You can't just give up on them. You got to follow your dreams. So I said to him, look, rather than me give you a job, I'll come and see you fight. And if I like you, I'll sponsor you. So I watched him and I liked him, so I started sponsoring him. And I sponsored him all the way till he won a national title in the amateurs. And then going around the amateur boxing scene, then I started to get the taste for this. And obviously I had to think about, if I'm sponsoring this kid all the way up until he's a professional, and then what's the benefit from me going to be? So I thought, you know what, let me see what's happening in the professional. How do you go about managing a kid, you know, getting a professional license, doing all that kind of stuff? So I started getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it until I found myself up in front of the Boxing Board of Control, you know what I mean, with an interview for a manager's license, you know.
Well done.
And, you know, mad how it happened, because you have to be licensed by the Boxing Board of Control for 3 years in any other discipline before you can have a manager's license. Yeah. But the specific year I went up, I had an agent's license. I had which was a kind of matchmaker's license now. And for that 1 year, you was allowed to have a license for 1 year.
Wow.
Not 3 years. For that 1 year. So when I applied and when I went to my interview, they started asking me the questions. You sit in front of a panel of the board and they ask you questions about managers. And one of the guys said, but you've only had a license for a year, so you don't qualify. And the chairman tapped him on the knee and said, this is only for this 1 year. It's just happened that way, that for this year, you have to have it's only 1 year.
Fantastic.
So the guy seemed to be a bit taken aback by that. And he said to me, well, if that's the case, and he looked me dead in the eye, you better make sure you get all these answers correct. Otherwise, you ain't coming back for another 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he was serious.
Yeah,
You know?
he looked you
It
dead
looked
in the
like
eye.
he didn't want me to get this license, you know?
Yeah.
So that was it. I was under pressure from there on in, and they started firing questions from all angles. But lo and behold, I got my license, and away we
I mean,
went.
what are the type of questions that they would ask you? Yeah?
Just you get there's a rules book, you know, and a manager is one of the most important, if not the most important, license in boxing, because it's the buffer between you and the promoter and the boxer. Your main priority is to look after the boxer's welfare, his health and safety, his business, everything, you know. And so therefore, you have to be of standing character to be able to have that position, you know. So it's very important. So they just ask you general things about, you know, what do you have to do for your boxer? You have to get him fights. You have to make sure that he's fit. You make sure he's training. All those things that you need to do in order to charter your boxer's career through the, you know, I mean, the boxing landscape.
Okay, no, good.
It's interesting you touched on that there are a few obstacles you faced. Would you be able to elaborate and shed some light on those?
What in management?
In management specifically?
In obstacles, in a sense, from managing, going to where I am today.
The acceleration of your path, what you believe it should have been and what it's actually been.
It's, you know, boxing is a small community, a very small community, and everybody knows everybody. And from my experience, and I can only speak from my experience, if you don't conform to, you know, the hierarchy, so to speak,
Right.
then you're somehow considered maybe a troublemaker, maybe someone who shouldn't be coming into the sport, maybe someone who thinks that he knows something that you don't know.
Right.
And it can make it very difficult for you in terms of getting through certain things and getting your boxers on certain shows and so forth and so forth, which I found, I've been lucky in a sense that my best friend in boxing, me, is Steve Goodwin. And me and Steve Goodwin started at the same time.
Yeah.
He started promoting and I started managing at the same time over 10 years ago. And if it wasn't for him, I don't think that I would have been able to achieve what I've achieved in boxing.
Yeah.
Because he was my outlet for my boxers. You know, he's always, without question, accommodated me in whatever I need as a promoter.
Right.
You know, which other promoters, it's been difficult for me to get on that landscape, to get on that table in terms of getting my boxers on shows. But Steve has always accommodated me. So therefore, I've been lucky in that sense, because I guarantee, I know for a fact how hard it is for managers, especially, I would say there are very few black managers in the sport of boxing.
Yes.
Very few. I know of one or two, but that's about it in the sport of boxing. So it's not easy in terms of promoting your fighters and people saying, yeah, we're going to put your fighter on a show. You know, there's always, and look, there's always that hidden kind of question. Is he okay? You know, can we do business with him? You know, you see the eyes, you see how people look at you.
Subtle undertones.
But you see them and they're there. I mean, look, football has got it all over. Football is a sport that is generally seen as being, how could it be?
Yeah,
But
an all-inclusive sport.
Yeah, but yet look at it today. It's plastered everywhere, you know, to the point it's been plastered by England international footballers. So what lesser sports where haven't got the profile of football, haven't got the outlet of such a massive sport, you know, if it's there, you know.
100%.
It's interesting how you touch on footballers specifically, and I'm assuming you're alluding to the Raheem Sterling saga that's been quite prevalent recently.
Yeah.
In light of that, do you feel that similarities, if racism is being seen to have been able to penetrate a sport as widespread as and inclusive as football, do you think that almost makes it not an impossible, but definitely an uphill struggle for something like boxing in contrast to the size of football?
When things are put underground, when you go so far left as that people cannot say certain things, it's very difficult to get the real person out, you know?
Right.
It's very difficult. When people can't say certain words, it's generally hard to know what they're actually talking about, what they're meaning. You know, we've pushed this political correctness so far left that no one really knows what's going on. No one really knows.
There's no dialogue as well.
There's no dialogue. No one really knows what's going on. You can't speak about it because if you speak about it, you're offending somebody. You know, and if you don't speak about it, you're not speaking up for somebody. So where are we? I mean, like I said, look, they're applauding Raheem Sterling. But come on, Raheem Sterling, 2019. You know
what he's going
through. You know, and they're applauding him. But why did it take a young English footballer to come up and say that before the actual hierarchy, before the people actually realised that they was doing it themselves anyway?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think that in the case of someone like Raheem, who has a massive profile being a first-team footballer for Manchester City and an England international, of course, do you think that his profile made it a lot easier to put the image across, whereas in boxing, if Anthony Joshua aside, a black boxer, not of the Anthony Joshua level, but a sub-tier, made a similar sort of statement, do you think it would have anywhere near the kind of impact as it would with someone like Raheem Sterling?
Definitely not.
In the industry?
Definitely not, because, you know, how many black prominent boxers do we have at that level, at the Anthony Joshua level? You know, and let's be honest about it, I'll break no bones about it. If you look at the other black fighters coming through, you know, do they want to upset the apple cart where they're at? You know, because they want to reach the levels of Anthony Joshua.
Exactly.
You know, so okay, granted, Raheem Sterling is there. So if he can stay, there's nothing anyone can take from him. But when you're trying to climb the ladder, you know, can you say it? You know, and if you do say it, what repercussions is it going to have for you
in the future?
In the future, not even in the future, at present. Because boxing is a sport that month by month, day by day, you get a fight. You know, then you might not get a fight for another year. You know, what happens then to your career? And it's such a small and short career that, you know, it's again going back to not being able to speak, not being able to openly discuss. You know, people shy away from it because most people are out for themselves. They get their little niche and they don't want to upset the apple cart, unfortunately.
Which is a shame.
So do you think it was counterproductive what Sterling did?
I think
as it was well intended?
I think it was very productive of what he did. I think you have to, you know what I mean? You have to bring it out in the open. I mean, again, for a young black footballer to come out and say this, and then the sad thing about it is that then the press admitted it. Then they admitted it. They knew that they was doing wrong. So hang on a minute. You knew that you was doing wrong, and had he not said it, you would have continued to do it.
Exactly.
And most likely still will.
And most likely still will.
I mean, it was yesterday that the newspaper awards, they came out. I think they won an award.
The Daily Mail, they won an award. How can you win an award? How can you give someone an award when they've been found to be...
They're culpable for all of the
image that they've been portraying Raheem Sterling for, and you give them an award. What does that say?
Exactly. And even though in their acceptance speech they had said, "Oh, we'll look into ourselves," but who's really going to be measuring them? Who's going to judge them?
Had they been proper people, had they been honest and just with themselves, they wouldn't have accepted the award. They would have said, "Sorry, but we are not of the caliber of taking that award because we have been seen to be doing something that is not acceptable in today's society." You know, and until we are seen as acceptable to be doing that in today's society, let someone else take the award. But they wasn't. They took it and apologised. A little apology
under the carpet, and
and they carry on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you heard, but I mean, I do want to get onto some of the boxing, and I think it's only right to start with probably one of the slightly biggest names in the stable, Richie Comey. Fantastic win, probably just under a month ago now. Over in the States, he's travelled over up and down, fighting to get this opportunity. I just want to ask, how did you guys meet? You know, what did you see in him that made you say, you know what, this guy can become a pro boxer and a champion as well, if you did see that?
Well, it was in 2010, August 2010. And I took my 3 sons to Ghana. It was a holiday. It was my birthday's in August, my youngest son's birthday's in August, and so I took the 3 boys out. My middle son, Michael, was an amateur boxer. He just won a national title over here. A very good boxer. As we was at Heathrow Airport leaving, Michael gets a phone call asking him if he wants to fight at the Homowa Festival in Bukum, Accra, which is a festival they have every year in Bukum, Jamestown, where all the boxing fraternity live. And we got that call at Heathrow Airport. We didn't know a gym. We didn't know anybody there.
Okay, wow.
And Michael said, Dad, what do you think? I said, well, you've got your kit because you're going to be training out there. Do you want to do it? He said, yeah, I'll do it. I was, no problem. So he said to the guy, no problem. When we get out there, someone's give us a number and we'll go to a gym. So when we got out there, 3 days into the holiday, we get a phone call, come down to Bukum, come down to this gym.
Did you get your pass from the infamous Mr. Bukum?
I didn't see him for a few years later. But and then we went into the gym, walked into this gym, and it was like, wow, this is an eye-opener. This was like, you know, I've never seen a gym like it. Concrete floor, no bags, one bag. You know, the ropes were in a metal pole and for the ring. I mean, it was, it was what you consider as one of the hardest gyms I've ever seen in my life, if not the hardest gym. And it was 3 weeks. We had a 2-week training that Michael had to do while we was there. And every day we went back and Michael was training with Carl Loco, who was Richard's then trainer. And Richard was actually fighting in the festival. So Richard was training alongside Michael. And they were sparring. And Michael was a very, very good... He had just won a national title here. Well, so he was a very good boxer. Yeah. And Richard was absolutely, you know what I mean, laying it down, you know. Yeah. But what I noticed about Richard is every time I went back is that he was like a silent assassin, you know?
Yeah.
He would just do exactly what he was told, do it to the best of his ability, without no fuss, and he was the consummate professional, you know, in terms of there was no airs and graces about him. He just worked and worked and worked. And every time we came back to the gym, my eyes kept fixated on this young kid in the corner. I said, nah, this kid is good. So anyway, the night of the festival came, and Richard fought on a festival, and he fought one of the national guys who fought in the national team, and he absolutely mullered him. Wow. And I was like, man, this kid's good. Yeah. But anyway, we came back home after the holiday, after 3 weeks, we came back home. And Carl, Richard's trainer, went to the States. He was doing some work in the United States. Yeah. But I couldn't get Richard out of my mind. I couldn't get him out of my head. Yeah. This kid is good.
Wow, he made a lasting impression.
This kid is good. What can I do? What can I do as someone who wants to... who wants to, you know, be in boxing, wants to make a statement in boxing, wants to do something that I can say that, yeah, I've started it from the bottom all the way to the top. Yeah. What can I do? So I phoned Carl in America. I said, Carl, I said, look, I want to turn Richard pro. He only had 12 amateur fights. Okay. I want to turn Richard pro. Yeah. Would you leave, if I paid, would you leave America to come back to Ghana to train Richard? Yeah. And he said, yeah. Yeah. Wow. I said to him, I think he has the potential to be a world champion. Yeah. And Carl, he said, well, it's going to take a lot of work, but...
Carl's worked with some guys as well. Yeah,
I'm up for it. So we've done that, and then it was the start of this magical journey, this journey into the unknown, you know, a total unknown in terms of, all right, now I'm going to sign this kid, what am I going to do? You know, and it just... You know, when you get the bit between your teeth and you're enthusiastic about trying to achieve something, and you start putting pieces together, and when you start putting pieces together, you start to see how the boxing world works in terms of how you are perceived, and how a Ghanaian boxer is perceived, and where his place is, and where our place is, and everything. Then you want to figure out how you're going to work all this out, you know, and you have some good luck, you have some bad luck, but ultimately you're moving forward. You're moving forward. And with Richard, it was just getting him fights in Ghana up until he had his first 11 fights. Yeah. Then bringing him, I brought him to the UK after he had 11 fights. He had 11 fights, 11 stoppages. I didn't think that that was never in my, 11 wins, 11 KOs. That was never in my thinking. You know, it was
not just selling it.
No, I just thought he was going to be a good boxer, and I thought he had, I thought that he had an opportunity with his potential, with the hard work, we might get him to a world champion. But, you know, I didn't think he'd start knocking people out, you know. And then I brought him to the UK, and because I wanted to see how he would work, how he would, out of his comfort zone in the UK, and see how it worked. And he came over here and he done great. And then it was just back and forth on Steve Goodwin shows, and until we got the Commonwealth title against Gary Buckland, you know, and that was the start of really now going into that realms of being world ranked and so forth and so forth.
Getting that true recognition.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that last week's guest was Lee Selby, who's a new entrant to the division.
Yes.
How interested would you be, given that it would be Selby's not debut but second fight at the weight? How interested would you be in that?
Did you see the fight?
I did.
Personally, he doesn't look strong enough at the weight for me.
You don't think his size is imposing? Or?
I mean, he jumped up 2 weights.
Yeah.
You're jumping up 2 weights. You know, naturally, you know, although he struggled to make, you know, featherweight, you're jumping up 2 weights. You've got some guys. Richard is a big lightweight. You know, as you can see in his fights and what he's achieved in his stoppages, he's a big lightweight. You know, so at those levels, you have to be careful. You know, weight is a massive factor.
Of course, big time.
You know, and I think he's been out of the ring a long time. You know, I think if he's going to fight world championship level, I think he's going to have 2 or 3 fights at that level to see whether he fits in, or maybe have to drop down to super feather.
Yeah,
you know. But I mean, of course, we'd be interested in the fight. I mean, it would sell. He's a former world champion.
It would,
you know. And then Richard would beat him 99 times out of 100.
And domestically, that would just transform Richard's profile. No, in the UK.
In the UK, yes, but then the UK, I'll be honest with you, it's been difficult, you know, to get Richard's profile up in the UK because we've not had the opportunity for him to perform on one of the major platforms in the UK. You know, he wasn't really. We didn't get really any offers after we beat Gary Buckland for the Commonwealth title. Thought we might get some offers, maybe to fight on one of the big major promoters' shows, but we never did. No one really fancied him. So we ended up fighting in places like Denmark and Sweden, South Africa, and you know what I mean? And we never really got that opportunity for one reason or another. We just didn't get that opportunity.
And do you believe a victory against a Pedraza or a Selby is what's needed to catapult him domestically, given that he's played not a spare tyre, but a secondary role in that you don't...
Richard fought in America on ESPN at 9 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday night. He fought in front of 1 million viewers at home, watching on TV. He's a world champion. He's the IBF world champion. He doesn't need to fight any of these to raise his profile. His profile is of a world champion. You know, at the end of the day, and you know, some of these fighters that you're talking about got great profiles here. But at the end of the day, Richard is now a world champion.
And there's an international element to it as well. If you think about it, like you teamed up with, I'm going to say Top Rank, or at least you fought on the last show, which was a Top Rank show. Richard's got that pedigree fighting in Russia, fighting against Robert Easter Jr. That was a very close fight. So for me, I think now it's all about elevating, right? And as much as the UK scene is great for the fans, I think actually if you're a boxer, you really want to try and get more known in the States, right? Well, you want to have your name out there a lot more, getting as many cards as possible, and obviously become...
To be quite honest, we've been treated a lot better in the US than we have done in the UK. In terms of, look, Richard's had 4 fights in the US. One fight was a world title. No, 5 fights in the US, should I say. His first fight was back in 2014, I think, Mamajanov in Vegas. We got the call. We just won the Commonwealth title, defended the Commonwealth title in South Africa. And we got the call, do we want to fight in June in Las Vegas? I always promised myself, as a manager, that I would never go to Vegas until I had a fighter fighting in Vegas. Little did I know that it would come so soon in my managerial career, because I had friends go to Vegas, you know, weekends and weeks on Vegas, and I used to say to myself, no, I'm not going.
Not even tempted for the big fights?
Not even for the big fights, because I wanted one of my fighters.
I like that. I like that mindset.
So that was my thing, you know. I couldn't believe it when we got the call. It was unbelievable, and it was a promotion by Roy Jones Jr. And we got to fight in this hotel car park. It was a car park. And overnight, they transformed it into a boxing arena. It was we had this, I mean, we'd just been in South Africa, and before you knew it, we was in Vegas, you know, and he fought on TV coast to coast, you know, at 9 o'clock on CBS Sports. And it was a fantastic achievement. He won the fight, you know, and we was brought in as the opponent. And Richard stopped him in the 8th round, you know. So it was a great fight. Then Richard's next fight again was against Robert Easter Jr. Was a World Championship fight on a PBC card. He got PBC Round of the Year, and it was a great fight.
I mean, speaking to Eamon as well, I know you got a lot of respect afterwards in terms of like the Robert Easter's fans were like,
they clapped us in back into the hotel. They filled the hotel, and it was fantastic. And he got a tremendous amount of respect in American media for that fight, even though it was a split decision loss. I thought he won the fight, but I can understand the 12th round, and I can understand in boxing politics. Robert Easter being the home fighter, it being a PBC show, I could understand why he got the decision. I thought he deserved at least a draw, you know, but hey ho, that's boxing. You know, that was the second fight in the States. And now when we signed with Lou DiBella, who's been absolutely fantastic, got Richard the right opportunities at the right time. We had to fight in Texas, where he went and stopped a 22-0 undefeated fighter. Again, that was live on a PBC show on TV. Everyone saw that. Then we fought, he was on another PBC card, even though it was on the undercard. It was a warm-up fight prior to his fight with Shaniev, you know, and then Shaniev was live on ESPN. So Richard's name is out there in America. 100%. He's got a lot of fans now, and his name is right out there.
And with the, I mean, just on the Shaniev performance, for me, I remember going into that fight thinking it's tough because you felt Shaniev was going to be touted as one of these Russians, Eastern Europeans, tough, a real puncher, and I was thinking, this is going to be a real challenge, you know, just because he only had 12, 11 fights didn't mean he wasn't accomplished. But for me, I felt he brought a challenge to Commey, and Commey took it straight back to him. Because I felt he threw interesting punches, and I was thinking, he's probably going to be able to hang with this guy, but he just planted his feet and gave it.
One of Richard's best attributes is he can take a shot.
He
can take a massive shot, and it won't faze him whatsoever. You know, and I was lucky enough to meet Andre Rosier in Leicester a few years back when Richard was looking to try something new, and he asked me to have a look at for a trainer. So Andre Rosier, who trains Danny Jacobs and a few other trainers, he was in Leicester a few years ago, and I had a conversation with someone, and someone said to me he'd be up there, go and speak to him. So I drove up to Leicester, and I had a good chat with him, and we got on really well. And Richard is a very quiet guy. He's an introvert, quiet, likes to be on his own. So I needed the right character to get the best out of Richard. Not to crowd Richard, not to force him to do things that he doesn't want to do, but just to understand him. And Andre is absolutely fantastic at that. And so it was just a seamless transition is to send Richard to America from Ghana. Andre took him in, and since then Richard he's improved 30% as a fighter. And now he's won the world title. He's improved another 20%. You know, Richard is going to be, you know, people have by far not seen the best of Richard yet. And Andre is stating, and he's gone on record saying that he will make Richard one of the pound for pound best in the world.
That's what we want to hear.
Because he's got every attribute to be that fighter. You know,
and it's amazing. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's interesting you mentioned the pound for pound list. If you could map out, and again, as much as you can say, a 2 to 3 year plan for Richard, when do you believe he will hit his prime?
I think in another 2 years.
At what division?
Richard will be a multi-weight world champion. I haven't got no. Listen, as I'm sitting here today talking to you about a kid that I saw in 2010 that I said would be a world champion. Believe me now when I say that he is a world champion today, and he'll be a multiple weight world champion. Because if I could see that, then surely my eyes must tell me something.
So lightweight's definitely not the ceiling.
Definitely not. 100%. 100%. Because, you know, Richard has been ducked all his career. He's been ducked. He's still being ducked now, even though he's the world champion. Do you hear anyone calling out Richard's name? Everyone wants to call out Lomachenko. Everyone wants to call out Mikey Garcia. But do you ever hear anyone calling out since Richard has won the world title? Has anyone said, I want to fight Richard Commey?
No, I agree with you. And you're talking about, I think, Who else is in the division? There's tons of guys.
Loads of guys.
Campbell, supposedly, if he really wanted it. Do you know what I mean?
There's loads.
Yeah.
There's loads. In fact, Richard was asked to vacate his Commonwealth title in order to facilitate Luke Campbell. When Luke Campbell won it, we did show an offer to say, can we get the offer to fight you back for it?
Yeah.
Didn't hear nothing. Didn't hear nothing.
So yeah, and how is Richie doing now? I know I heard he had surgery after.
No, he didn't have no surgery. It was just a slight tendon issue, which the doctors said in America he needs 6 weeks rest.
Okay,
so he's resting. He's back in Ghana. He had a great reception back home.
I was going to say, please talk to us about that.
Yeah,
I've seen the footage.
It was amazing. I went out there a day early, so I went because Richard was coming from America. So I went out there on a Wednesday, and Richard landed on a Thursday. Yeah. And we was waiting for him at the airport with the sports minister, the head of the GBA, Ghana Boxing Authority, and it was just. It was just mayhem, people came to the airport, and then from the airport, we was in the convoy of cars and motorbikes and a police escort through the streets of Accra all the way to Bukum, and these people came out to cheer their guy on. You're looking at one of the poorest places you'll ever see in the world, and these people came out, and I was. It was difficult to take it all in because 9 years prior, I was just on a holiday in there into gym, looking at a kid, and then it's taken us that long, and to see it all come full circle. And Richard, he was on top of the car, and he looked at me, and we looked at each other, and it was like, wow, have we really done this? Has this really happened? All these people, and then we turned around, and then Joshua Clotty was clambering on a wall, screaming and shouting and waving like that. It was unbelievable.
Everyone was backing. I mean, even I remember after the Commie, and that was a loss, the reception he received after the Commie defeat. And I was like, this guy, the people are backing him. I just want him to, like you guys, I just want him to win a world title. And to see that was fantastic.
With Ghanaian talents at the moment, obviously there's Richard and Josh Buatsi. Do you believe that obviously you'll be backing your man, but those two as a pair could put Ghana on the map?
Well, Joshua Buatsi he fights for Great Britain. I think he was in the Great Britain Nationals. I think, because he was. Funny enough, Joshua Buatsi came to train at my gym, and first he was going to fight for, or he was touted to fight for Ghana in the Commonwealth Games back in the day, and he was with my gym along with Duke Micah, who I now manage in America, and a few others. Isaac Dogbe, they was all came to my gym. They all came to my gym in Loughton, and they was under the guise of a guy called Ray Quirkle, who was the sports ambassador in Ghana, and then obviously he went to fight for Great Britain, and he's done very, very well. Really, really impressed with his progression. But you have to see with this Ghanaian thing, you have to relate to it. The people have to see you relate to it in order for you to be a part of. In terms. So I think because he fights for Britain, credit to him because he always puts a Ghanaian flag on his shorts, which is fantastic. Credit to him. But you have to look at him in a different light as opposed to Richard Comey, who is a full-blown Ghanaian and comes from Bukum, where, I don't know, it's an interesting fact that Bukum, this small part of the world in Ghana, has created more world champions per square foot than anywhere else on the planet.
I was going to say
than anywhere else on the planet.
You talk about Azuma Nelson,
Clotty, DK Poison, Joshua Clotty,
Dogbo. Now
not Dogbo because Dogbo is from up north, I think, and he came from here, but he's actually not from Bukum. But the 8 other world champions are all from that area, So it's a very unique and spiritual area, and I think for any boxing fan, a boxing enthusiast, to have that fact in front of you would be a great place to go and visit and see like the roots of boxing from Ghana.
100%. I mean, for me, I think it's a great town. I mean, I've known about it. One of my heroes was Azuma Nelson, so knowing what he represented. My family are from Kumasi, so we've got family in Tema Accra. I would love to try and go there. And now as an adult and as a boxing enthusiast, I'd love to actually just go there and
you'd have to. You would have to go there to enlighten yourself about what it really means and see it with your own eyes and to feel it. That's the only way. Like I said, when I first saw Richard, there was there was all kinds of spiritual things going around that has led us to, it didn't just happen. It's something drew us together.
There's the energy, and we believe in that. And I mean, when you look at obviously what Kwame has done now, but just in general, do you see boxing in Africa and in Ghana? I mean, I would say Ghana being biased because for me it's always been big there. But in terms of the continent, do you see we start to have a rise? We saw the guy who beat one of Matchroom's guys come over from Tanzania last year. Tete.
No, he's from.
There's a Ghanaian, the South African guy.
That's Tete's a South African
but there
guy.
was there's a Birmingham guy that fights for Matchroom. I want to say Scott something, but he fought an African guy unknown. And he came and beat him. Totally shocked him.
I see that. I remember that fight.
So and that's the theme.
The thing. I can speak for Ghana. I can't speak for the rest of Africa, but I can speak for Ghana. You have to have an infrastructure. If you look, Ghana was producing world champions long before Eastern European boxing. Eastern European boxing has now got a fantastic infrastructure where they've put a lot of money. They've put a lot of money into boxing from an amateur, from the amateur program all the way up. Kazakhstan and places like that. They've done great. Ghana has not. We've relied on raw talent and just getting the boxers that we have got through. So Eastern European boxers have surpassed us in terms of having that infrastructure to have, a progression of world champions or world championship challengers to keep coming through. So the opportunity, they're out there, but we have to provide it for ourselves. We can't look at other people and say, oh, well, they've got this, they've got that, and blah. No, we have to do it ourselves, In terms of getting Richard to where he is, I had to do it myself. I couldn't wait and hold out a begging bowl and say, can you help my fighter? Because it would never have happened and Richard would never have been a world champion. So we've had to go out and do it. And for the infrastructure of the boxing in terms of, if Eastern European can do it, the country's there. And they have not got the mystical, spiritual home like Bukum that Ghana has. But if they can keep producing, then we should be able to do it. 100%. But we have to look at ourselves first and the infrastructure that we've got. Unless you can't, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do it.
But doesn't that give you more satisfaction knowing that your guys have come through without that push, without that infrastructure? I know it's been a lot harder, but does it not feel more rewarding knowing that you've had your backs against the wall and you've still come through?
In a way, yes, but in a way, no, because you can't keep fighting that same fight. It will wear you down. It will weigh heavy on you. When you do something and you struggle and you struggle and you struggle and you get there and then you look behind and that struggle that you've had, there's no one else coming through. There's no one, nothing's been made easier. No one's seen what you've done and said, right, if they've done that, we need to put an infrastructure in so that struggle isn't as hard as that again.
Bring the barriers
so when
down.
I do look back and I see that there's no infrastructure, then it's satisfying Richard being a world champion. But I want to create more world champions. I want there to be a conveyor belt of world champions coming from Ghana. And if and I spoke to Richard about this only last week because I've set up a streetwise foundation in Ghana.
Oh, fantastic!
Where
let us know anything we can do.
Most definitely.
We set out a foundation where, with some friends of mine, we will be going to provide the gyms with equipment. Boxing equipment, help the infrastructure back in Ghana. Richard is actually the global ambassador for this foundation. So we're going to try and set up. We're going to try and set up this new way that we can help the infrastructure in Ghana. Because, if we don't do it, and I said this to Richard, if we don't do it, we'll look at ourselves in 10 years' time and if no one else comes through, then we've failed. 100%. We've failed, And
I think that's the self-criticism you need. But I think, going back to Rafi's point, there is that, it's great, we've made it through the hardships. But I think it's about having a reputation. When you think of the Ukrainian boxing teams, Cuban, Kazakhstan, they got that reputation to just continually produce top quality. Ghana can do that, but they need the system, they need to be molded, and they need the sort of guidance as well,
yeah.
to just push them through that.
If you look at some of the Eastern European fighters, they're 7, 8 and 0, and all of a sudden they're superstars.
Yes, exactly.
Because they've got such a decorated amateur career that because of the reputation now that they have, they're already getting big contracts when they've only had...
So they're going after all those guys,
you know? And Ghana can do that because they have just equally as good talent there.
Yeah.
But as far as solving the problem goes, does it have to be dealt with internally, or do you think someone externally has to come and change something? Because it's also an attitude. Internally,
well, I am external in terms of I don't live in Ghana, you know, and what I've done in terms with Richard is unique to what was done before. You know, I live in the UK. I was born in the UK. I was schooled in Ghana, and my parents are from Ghana. Lived most of my life in the UK, so I've come from an external point of view. So when you come and do that, no matter what happens, no matter how much success you have, you always push people's noses out of joint.
I was going to ask you, how did that go?
There's always going to be, and that's in life in general.
That's what I say.
That's in life in
whatever
general.
sport, whatever business,
whatever success you create, you create more problems for yourself because other people see it as, well, how comes you've done this? You come from England, you've had better help than this and that. But they've got to get that. You can't get that mentality out of people. So from going back to your question, externally, yes, because I look at it differently from what they look at it. They're steeped into their traditions. Their traditions have got them so far. But if I've come along and then done this, then we can use the traditions that they already have, used what I have got, get a balance and work together to create more and more opportunities for these young boxers.
And what time frame would you be looking for that to be, for that transition from start to finish, where we are now, with talent coming through the hard way, continuously, to where you want it to be a smooth transition like that? How far away?
I don't think it will ever be, I'll be honest with you, it's because of the way the boxing business is, I don't think it's ever going to be a smooth transition. I can only do what I do through the foundation that we're setting up and through my own ideas and through my own drive. I can convince certain people, but certain people are just not going to take it, you know? So I can only focus on what I do, and hopefully I can cast my net far and wide, and we'll get progress. We'll get to a stage where we as a foundation and we as a group with friends of mine help the progression of Ghanaian boxing. And if it takes the rest of my life, then so be it.
Yeah, but it's about the legacy as well, because I think no matter what, when you look back in 10 years, and this is not just saying it, I mean, to take Kwame to where he is now, a world champion, you must be a part of Ghanaian, you must be part of that conversation when the Ghanaian sports ministers are looking about, you know, what can we do? And you're shaking your head to say you're not.
Be surprised.
Yeah, and it does.
I'll be honest with you. When we went, the sportsman. I met the president last time I was there. This time we didn't meet the president. I had a week time frame, and the sports minister didn't turn up to come and see Richard. He sent the deputy sports minister. You have got one world champion, you know. And this is how you represent him. You send the deputy sports minister. No disrespect to the deputy sports minister. But if you've got one world champion who's won a world title in America,
roll out the red carpet.
And the highest of the high should come and say, thank you.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you for showing us the way. Thank you for opening our eyes to what we can achieve as individuals with no help from the ministry, no help from the government, but yet look what you've achieved. So come and educate us. We didn't even get that. Didn't even get that.
And this is probably what when I said, I was like, how were you met? Because obviously knowing Ghana, understanding everything, so not everything, but understanding quite a bit, I could have imagined somebody like yourself coming through, you know how to articulate yourself, you clearly got a bit of business now surround you, that would have put their noses out of joint, and I just hope for the best of for the future that they can oversee this, because it's not going to solve anything if we're infighting. You've got an idea to have to uplift Ghana. They need to support that. You know?
Well, hopefully they will, but I'm not banking on it. And to be fair, I have gone over the years. I have gone into the last 4 sports ministers.
Yeah.
I've gone into their offices and I've asked for support for the boxing, not for me, not for what I do, but for the boxing community.
Yeah.
I've asked for each sports minister, the last 4, I've been to their offices and asked them to support boxing in Ghana.
Yeah.
And they've said yes, yes, yes. And as soon as I've left, not a thing.
Not a thing.
Not a thing. So my time of asking is over.
Yeah.
And now it's the time of doing.
Yeah.
And if they see and they want to offer something, that's up to them. If they don't, no skin a fan knows. We've already got our planning process and we're going with that.
Yeah.
Do you think they feel intimidated by the success? As sad as that sounds.
I couldn't, I don't know. I really don't know. Like I say...
But your perception?
Maybe some people do. Maybe some people in that hierarchy
Because I think
do.
there is an element of that.
Some people do, and they find it hard to accept that someone from the outside has come in and done this.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't accept me from someone from the outside because my family and my heritage is from Ghana. So I'm as equally as one of them as they are of me. So they shouldn't feel that way. And if I've done it with Richard, I can do it with another Ghanaian fighter and another Ghanaian fighter and another Ghanaian fighter. So like I say, I can only put what I do out there, and if it changes their perception, great. If it doesn't, I'm not going to beat myself up.
You're not going to stop either.
I'm not going to beat myself up about it.
bang your
I'm
head
going
against
to
the
keep
wall,
doing what I'm doing because, every time I look at Richard and he thanks me for the chance meeting that we had and he's now a world champion, I've got to keep going. Got to keep going.
And I just wanted to talk about, obviously, I say represent, but you set up Streetwise Management. Just tell us a bit about the company, what the plans are for the next 12 months, stable of fighters. Just give us a bit of a general...
We obviously set up Streetwise Management a few years back and we had some fighters. We had some fighters come, we've had some fighters go. As the boxing industry is, fighters...
Emotional creatures sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you get them, you think you're doing the best job you possibly can and someone speaks in their ear and then they, they got, that's the hate.
To the best
that's it.
That's the business.
That's the business of it. Unfortunately, that's how it is. But we set it up in terms of we wanted to build a business that's a very hands-on unit, a very close unit where we could provide opportunities for boxers that don't get the best opportunities, that haven't had stellar amateur careers, that the big promoters jump on and see, because they don't come to me. They don't come to me as a manager. There are other bigger fish. There are other bigger fish out there than me. So I'm not their first port of call when they go down the list of managers to go and see when they first turn professional. Although my surname begins at A and I'm on the top of the list alphabetically, I'm the bottom of the list when it comes to actually opportunity, so which is okay. I mean, at the end of the day, you work your way and hopefully through Richard's success, people might not perceive me as that at the bottom of the list anymore, because if I've made a world champion from someone who started from nothing, then maybe I can get other boxers opportunities. I mean, we've got a young kid in a called Rames Amoo. He's an amateur.
Rames
Amoo.
And what division is he fighting at?
He's super bantam.
Nice.
And unbelievable story. He came, we had our gym, Pro SW gym in Loughton in Essex, and he walked into our gym, he said he wanted to be a professional fighter. And I said, well, but he said his dad didn't want him to be. He's an Asian kid. He said his dad didn't want him to be. His dad wasn't keen on it. I said, why is that? He says, well, I'm at university. I'm at university and my dad wants me to finish university, but I want to be a professional fighter. She says. I said, look, go and bring your dad. Go and get your dad. You must always listen to your father. If your father wants you to do something or be something, he knows best and it's probably what's best for you. But bring him and we will have a chat between the three of us. So he went and got his dad. And his dad came to the gym and we sat down and his dad said to me, look, it's not that I don't want him to be a boxer. It's that he's in university and I want him to finish his education in university first before he starts being a boxer, just in case he doesn't finish. And I said to Rames, did you hear what your dad said? He's not saying that he doesn't want you to be a boxer. You have plenty of time. Go away, finish your education. I will still be here. And I promise you, as long as your dad says it's okay, I'll manage you to the best of my ability and you'll be a professional fighter. So he went away, finished his education, got his degrees. He's now a maths teacher
Congratulations.
He's now a maths teacher at Epping Forest College, and he's also 7-0, I believe. Professional career. He's got a fight next week, March the 16th, on a Goodwin show, which I hope you'll be there for.
Yeah, we will be there.
And after that, he's just been made mandatory for the Southern Area title. I mean, this kid, you would not believe is a professional fighter. Yeah. He's such an absolutely...
I look forward to meeting him, bring him on the show as well.
He's an absolutely lovely kid, and there's kids like that need to be protected from the game, you know? Yeah, I mean, because he is a lovely kid. You wouldn't... Butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. He's a maths teacher, and he is a maths teacher. You know, think of your maths teachers at school.
You know? He fits that bill.
I mean, think of your maths teachers at school, and this kid is that. You know, so none of our maths teachers could box or could fight. You know,
this is a one-off.
He's a one-off. You know what I mean? But he's a lovely kid, but we want him to feel comfortable in the surroundings of professional boxing, for him to feel happy. My son Michael Jr. trains him, you know, and he trains alongside Ryan Walker, who's another one of our fighters. He was 6-0. Unfortunately, he went for the Southern Area title for Super Bantam, and he lost that title. But he will be coming back later on in the year, and it's just a hands-on feel kind of management company that we want to work with our fighters, not for our fighters, but with our fighters, with our trainers, and with everything else that happens in the boxing fraternity. We want them to be a part of it, you know? So, you know, I mean, we just want to be close and make it easy for them to understand that this boxing game is tough. You need people around you that you can trust, that you can rely on. More importantly, you can speak to. Yeah, you can come and speak to any time, no matter what. Even if it's to come and say to me, Michael, I don't want you to manage me no more. Come and say it. You know, we'll sit down and we'll have a chat. And if you don't want me to manage you, no problem. And if you ask me for my advice about who you should manage, I'll give you my best advice. You know, and that's it.
And that's the mindset to have, because ultimately everyone wants to everyone's got that perception. Managers just want to make the most for their make the most money out of a certain fighter. But actually, if you have that relationship, there are managers out there that have shown that they just have a relationship. They have to have a good conversation and give them good advice, and they don't want wrong for them. They just want the best for them. So, I mean, no matter what, you've put years of investment, but actually, you just want to see somebody have a good life as well. And I think that's the right mindset.
Yeah, you want to see them succeed. You want to see them reach their potential, and whatever that. Not every boxer you see is going to be a world champion.
Yes,
but you want to be able to nurture them to reach their potential, you know. Richard's potential was a world champion. That's what I saw in my eyes. And you want them to go through that and to get to their potential, and to be able to tell them when's the right time to quit, when enough is enough. Because I want to have this conversation with you in 5 and 10 years' time, 12 and 15 years' time, you know, not just for today, you know.
That's a good
and it's not only about the life of boxing, within boxing, it's what you do after boxing and your experiences that you could share with others as well.
And I just wanted to ask you, because obviously you've worked with, like I said, the Bella, currently working with Top Rank, you worked with PBC in the past, Goodwin. What have you learned about yourself and as a boxing manager in the last 10 years about, you know, how have you grown, and what would you say the key things that you've learned?
It's been tough. I must admit, it's been tough. It's not been easy. It's been, you know, sometimes you feel like you're alone. You know, you make certain decisions and people look at you and you look at them and you think they don't trust what you're saying. You know, you get that. You know, who are you? What have you achieved? What have you done? You know, sometimes I've had conversations with people in the boxing fraternity. They've not been in boxing as long as me, trainers and managers and promoters as such. And when I've spoke, they've looked at me as if to say, "Who are you? What do you know?" You know, and it's kind of like
question,
just you know. And so for me, I've learned to trust in my ability and to trust in my judgment.
Well said.
You know? And you know, and if I get it wrong, which I have done, learn from those mistakes.
Exactly.
Because they're my mistakes. They're not someone else's. They're my mistakes. So learn from those mistakes and make sure you use them in the future for you to progress. You know, I learned a lot of mistakes with some other fighters that I've implemented into where Richard is today. You know, and you know, I've been able to stand and talk to certain promoters in a way that I feel they should be spoken to. You know, in terms of, I'm no longer that guy who's learning on the job.
Yeah.
You know, I've actually
confidence.
I've
You're
got the
established.
confidence. I'm established in my own life.
Yes.
Still, people don't see me as that. Still, people don't see me as that. You know, especially don't forget, I'm a manager who has an African world champion. I'm not. I'm not a manager as a British world champion.
Yeah.
Which is perceived to be slightly different. You know.
Yeah.
But hey ho.
Yeah.
You know, certain people give you the respect and the time of day. Other people still question your ability.
Yeah.
You know, but you can't live like that kind of thinking, well, you've got to prove it to them because you've already proved it.
Yeah.
But like I say, you have to have confidence in yourself. What I've learned to do is make the right judgment calls and be confident in those judgment calls. You know, some of them will be right, some of them will be wrong.
Yeah.
Hey ho, but nobody's perfect.
Yeah. No, fairly said. Then, yeah, go on, Rafi.
Do you think you've paved the path then for future black managers coming up from my generation, for example? Do you feel that the hardships you've faced would have made the road a little bit smoother for them?
I hope so. I hope so. I hope. But not just black manager. Any manager who wants to get into the game and wants to, you know, I mean, don't matter what colour you are, you're going to face hardships. You know, in this game, if you're an alien, if you're an outsider, you're going to face hardships.
Yeah.
And those hardships should not be just construed to your colour. They should be construed to whatever hardships, whatever obstacles people put in your way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could be a white manager sitting here, you know what I mean, and have, you know what I mean, people saying, well, you're no good, you can't do this, you can't do that, because you've had no experience. We're all going to get certain amounts of obstacles put in our way.
Yeah.
So, and we can all learn from those obstacles, no matter what they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those prejudices in any way, whatever forms they come in, we can all learn from it. I'm not going to sit here and say, because I'm a black manager, it's been hard for me and it's been this and it's been that and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. It's going to be hard for any new manager coming into this sport.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard for any new manager. And if I can pave the way or say something or prove to any manager, whatever colour, creed, religion they're from, if they can come to me and ask me, Michael, how did you do this? How did you get over that obstacle?
Yeah.
And I could influence them or help them in any way, I would gladly do that. And if I've opened the door for people to think, well, I want to be a boxing manager, and there are going to be obstacles, there are going to be hardships, there are going to be prejudices. But you know what? Michael done it. Michael got over this. Michael got over that.
Yeah.
Then I've done a good job.
Yeah.
That's refreshing to hear.
Yeah, 100%. No, man, thank you. And I mean, I was going to say, what advice would you give to any young boxing managers? But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So now all done this. So we're going to quickly dive into some of the boxing that took place last weekend, namely the Matchroom Next Gen show that took place in Peterborough. We had React Paul, we had Sims Jr., and we had Jordan Gill headlining. Few names in attendance, but a lot of beef going on outside of the ring as well, namely between Okoli and Dillian White. But Jordan Gill, I wanted to ask you guys if you know anything about him. Is he the real deal? Do you think you see a good future for him?
You know, when you have a prospect coming up and you're always the A side, you know, you got everything stacked in your favour.
Yeah.
You get time. You get opponents picked for you. You get time. You get, you know what I mean? Things are a lot more easier. That's not to say that he's not the real deal.
Yeah.
But we have to see him in a real fight. You know, someone who's just as hungry as he is. Someone who's not been brought in as an opponent. You know, although we need those to nurture our boxers. Yeah. But there's going to be a time when he's fighting for final eliminators and world titles. Then those questions are going to be answered. You know, those questions are going to be answered. And I've seen many a fighter that's been the A side, the A side, the A side, the A side, the A side.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they get into a real fight, all of a sudden, damn, this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
No one told me that this is what it was
you know,
really
and
about.
as you said it, the guy I was thinking of before was Sam Eggington. He lost it.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. Yeah,
you know,
they get built.
They get built up. So you know, and it's good management, good promoting to get them the right fights at the right time before you start overhyping them and saying that they're the real deal.
Yeah.
You know, and it remains to be seen. You know, it's a tough division that he's in. So there's a lot of great fighters out there in his division.
Yeah.
And you know, again, you know, in America, you here is a smaller pond than in America.
Of course.
I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
of
you go
course.
to America,
You've really got to be creme de la creme.
you got to step up to. You got to be something over there because there are so many fighters from all walks of life over there.
And the
They're willing
national
to come and test you.
championships.
You know, so you know it remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I was going to say on that, it was leading to the next point. Anthony Sims Jr., Mayweather's cousin, signed to Matchroom. He's fought over in the UK now. He's trying to make a name for himself. You see his performance. What did you think, Rafi?
I thought he showed a lot of good ring generalship. It is still very early days. And the round 6 stoppage as well to top it all off.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, it is still very early days. There is still a little bit of naivety, you could say, in throwing some shots. But yeah, he's on the right path, I'd say.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
What do you make of him? Have you come across him?
I've seen him, but the first thing you said, he's Mayweather's cousin. Take that completely out of the narrative.
Yeah.
And judge him for what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, because their narrative is Mayweather's cousin. He's Mayweather's cousin. Muhammad Ali had hundreds of cousins.
yeah. And Mayweather's had cousins before that
exactly.
have been... Yeah.
You know, so take that out of the narrative and look at him for what he is.
Yeah.
You know, he's a work in progress. Let him be that work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take the pressure off the kid by keep mentioning Mayweather's name. Yeah. And let's see him for what he really is.
Yeah.
I would argue to that, though, maybe that's what's needed to have kept him relevant, because you could argue that maybe he's been a bit inactive over the past few years for his own good.
I don't know the politics behind him being inactive.
Yeah.
I don't know the politics why he's not been fighting. It certainly wouldn't be the Mayweather name, you know, because I mean people keep shouting it out there.
Yeah, I know.
You know, maybe he hasn't been good enough. Maybe he hasn't working hard enough, and they've not wanted to push him so soon. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's had quite a few fights, so I'm interested to see where he goes. And I think you're right. I think it's just that psychological thing you're just saying to yourself. Every time you see him on Sky Sports, it's Mayweather's cousin. Subliminally, we're repeating it. So, but I think he looked okay. I wouldn't start screaming from the rooftops, to be fair. I know they've spoken about him potentially coming down in weight, and I think you know, an Anthony Yard, Buatsi at light heavyweight. I think they're tough fights for him, but
no, they're not fights for him now.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, so I think they need to, and he's almost 20 fights. He's 18, 20 fights into his career. He's had. He's not like 6 and 7. He's quite far into it. So
Buatsi maybe, because Buatsi, as good as he is, he's still inexperienced.
Yeah,
he's still.
learning.
He's still, again, Buatsi's still learning.
Yeah,
he's still
100%.
learning. He's not been in those firefights, you know. I mean, think
10
something's
rounds.
coming back the other way, hard and fast.
Yes.
You know, he's dominated most of his fights.
Yeah.
And credit to him for doing that. But, you know, you tend to know a fighter when they've been put on the back foot. I mean, when the pressure's coming the other way, how do they deal with that?
Yeah.
And it's all well and good being on the front foot all the time and being in the comfort zone, and that's being on the A side all the time.
Yeah.
But what happens when you turn up one day and you're on the B side?
Yeah.
And the whole promotion is around the fighter in the other corner.
Yeah.
How do then you react?
I was going to say, guys, we've got a couple of callers, so I'll open the lines up while we've still got time. Going out to 348. 348, the floor is yours. Hello, question or statement? What's your name?
Kojo, Ras, Michael, good evening, gents.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Who's that, Tom?
Yeah, it's Tom.
How you doing, mate?
I'm all good.
Good. What's on your mind, mate? Question or statement?
Yeah. Just firstly, I'd like to commend Michael for his involvement in obviously nurturing Michael Comey, the growth of Ghanaian boxing, and how that's accelerated over the last 2 years. So obviously down to his impetus and guidance, I have to say that obviously we've seen a good trend in sort of top elite athletes coming out of Ghana, and it's obviously very promising for the country. And also kind of the point you guys touched on about the infrastructure behind sort of Ghanaian boxing and that distinction with GB boxing particularly. I think as well, sort of the way that Ghana have had their success with a lot of elite level fighters is through the resilience, through the spirit, through sort of the determination, whereas kind of if you look at the UK picture, there's been a very sort of instilled infrastructure with the whole GB amateur cycle, and I think as well that kind of resembles the spirit and tradition of Ghanaian boxing and how it's going to strive in years to come.
Tom, Michael here. Thank you very much for your kind words. Really appreciate that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, if you look at the GB squad and what they've done over the last 15 years in the infrastructure and the money that's been spent, especially the lottery money, and these guys, these amateur guys, you know, the wages or the expenses they've been paid to stay amateur and to fight for the GB all around the world, it's culminated in the UK scene, boxing scene, having a great boom in world champions over the last 10 years, you know, and if Ghana had a fraction of that infrastructure with what they have already, imagine where they would be. And this is what I'm trying to say, and this is what we're going to, as our foundation that we're setting up, this is what we're going to try and put together so that they do have a fraction of that, and we'll see where it takes them. But you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks for that, Tom. Appreciate the call, mate. We're going to move on to the next caller, but thank you very much, mate. Cheers.
No worries, guys. Keep up the good work.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers. Thanks. Going out to 910. 910. The floor is yours. Hello.
Hello. Raps on TV.
Yes.
How
you doing, Sam?
How you doing, Coach?
Yeah, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Just in a noisy area. Hang on, let me go somewhere quiet.
I was going to say, mate. I like the dedication. Were you in the pub or what?
Literally just finished running, man.
Okay, that'll chest that now. All
We'll
good.
let you off.
Appreciate the call in, mate. Question or statement?
More of a question. What do you think's going to unravel in the next couple weeks to the month's time in terms of unexpected feuds and statements being said amongst the boxing community right now?
Unexpected feuds?
Yeah, unexpected call-outs, unexpected arguments. Just something. What do you think is going to be a massive curveball?
I think we've been given an insight already with Lawrence Okoli and Dillian White. There's a bit of an argument at the moment that maybe Lawrence Okoli, in the eyes of some, Dillian White most certainly has reached sort of the ceiling as to how far he can go in the cruiserweight division, and maybe a step up to heavyweight would be the best move for his profile. But do you read much into that?
I mean, as I've discussed with a few of my boxing heads before, that a couple of days ago actually when it happened, that Okoli's bored. Yes, I do think he's getting a bit complacent in the sense that he's calling out people out of his weight class. But again, he's a clout chaser, like some of the guys said on IFL TV and whatnot. He is clout chasing and chasing for hype. I do feel as if the Okoli of old has gone, and I feel like he's beginning to get, if he's not careful, he's going to get himself into that O'Hara Davis space where he's overhyping himself and calling out people that he shouldn't be calling, and just forgetting about the core foundations to why he started boxing. Instead, he's getting a bit caught up in the hype because he's getting a couple of checks now. That's one perspective of looking at it. And to be honest, I don't want to see Lawrence Okoli go down that route because he's come from a very humble beginning, working at McDonald's, being fat, being bullied. He resembles everything that boxing can give you if you work hard. I just don't want him to overstep the mark and get caught into the hype, because obviously he's got a few sponsorships there, he's getting a few big checks for fighting. I don't want him to forget the reason why he started it, and I feel that slowly he's beginning to get caught up in all the hype. By calling Dillian White out and tweeting him, this is a classic O'Hara Davis move, I feel, except it's a bit toned down. Would you agree?
Funny enough, Michael here, funny enough you saying that. I remember when Lawrence first, funny enough, came to my gym when he was still at college. His college teacher brought him to our gym and asked us if we could train him. And O'Hara Davis was at the gym. Funny enough, you saying that as well. And he was such a lovely kid, Lawrence. Yeah, very humble. You know what I mean? Very dedicated to his craft. Very polite. You know, well mannered. And obviously, you know, success changes people. And
it does.
It changes people. And also, what happens is, you start to get influenced by people around you as well. And if you don't come from that solid base of what you want in life, what you want to achieve in life, you could be easily influenced by these people. You know, and it seems to me, look, if you want to be the best boxer that you are, and let's face it, you're calling out a heavyweight that's done a fantastic job since he's got beat by Anthony Joshua. Dillian White should be given the utmost respect, and Lawrence should be given Dillian the utmost respect. Doing what he's doing, I feel, and personally, my opinion, I feel he's been very disrespectful for someone who's earned his dues in the sport. You know, and it's a shame.
100%.
It's a shame because Lawrence, to be honest, you haven't earned your dues in the sport. You know, you haven't had that marquee fight. You haven't beaten that marquee opponent. You haven't shown yourself to be world class.
Exactly.
You know,
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
He should be concentrating. What he should be concentrating on doing is cementing what he is. You know, he's still learning. You know, there are plenty of fighters in his weight division around the world that if he wanted to be somebody, or he wanted to show the world that he is capable of going to that one step further to that world level, go and fight these guys. But don't disrespect someone who's earned his dues. You know, and I feel it's very unfortunate.
Mate. 100. I couldn't agree with you more. I do feel that he's getting a bit out of control in that sense.
Yeah.
I feel that if he wins a world title in cruiserweight division, then fair play. Do you know what? You can scream to the hills because you earned that right and you've got that belt around your wrist and that. But I just feel that he needs to humble himself.
He needs to humble himself, and this is the time when the people around him need to pull him to one side and say, look. You know, don't run before you can walk. You know what I mean. And this is the boxing industry. You know, you're gonna get people that are gonna push him towards all that hype and all that stuff because they like that. You know, and he'll have one or two people around him who will say, you know, calm yourself down. But it's who he decides to listen to. You know, and let's hope for the better of him that he listens to the right people.
Yeah. No, fingers crossed. I do hope so.
So do I.
Another thing I wanted to touch on. I know you've probably got other callers calling in. One thing I wanted to touch on was, Anthony Sims Jr., I was listening before. I do feel that the Mayweather name has put unnecessary pressure upon him. I feel that I know this is me just jumping the gun a bit, but I just feel that he should just take each fight at a time.
Yeah.
Earn his stripes, get the ring rust, get the ring experience, not ring rust, get the ring experience, get your ring craft up, and then you can start calling out the big fights. Because at the moment, I could see what's going on is because of the fact you've got the Mayweather name, people are going to see if he can step up to the plate like Mayweather.
Yeah.
And I just really hope he can take his time. I don't want him to be a fighter that's rushed too soon. And I get the way the market is moving in the way because of social media, people are demanding things now, they want to see everything now. But I just feel that someone like him, he's got great talent, he's got tremendous talent, he's got great attributes. I think he's got he's got everything it takes to become a big star, but it's whether he allows himself the patience to have that time.
Yeah,
that's what I think anyway.
No, I agree.
I agree with that statement as well. 100%. You know, if he's not pushed, I mean, there's another fighter out here as well that again has a family name that's been taken president, and that's Conor Benn. You know, Conor Benn. You know. There's only one Nigel Benn, you know. There's only one Nigel Benn, and unfortunately, his son is not him, you know. And he's been marketed to be the next Nigel Benn, and it's a lot of pressure to put on the kid, you know. And people.
But to be honest, I understand that, but with the Ben situation, I do feel like young Conor does put a lot of stuff on himself.
No, yeah, granted he does, and people allude to that. Granted he does, but at the same time, you know, it's the thing now, you know, in terms of when kids or young boxers are related to certain people, the first thing people allude to is their relation, you know, and then sometimes they get caught up in that hype, and once you start getting attention and you start getting all that adulation, as a young person or a young boxer, if you've never had it before, it's very difficult to, you know what I mean, put it to one side, you know, and get into the gym and work hard, you know, because people...
No, definitely, mate.
You know, and again, it boils down to who you have around you and who you get pulling you down and putting your feet firmly on the ground.
Yeah. And listen, Sam, we're gonna move on to the topic. I appreciate you calling in, mate. The clock is ticking, as they say. But appreciate all the support as usual. Be sure to call in next week.
No worries. Take care, guys. Wraps on TV.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Cheers, thank you. So, guys, we're going to do a quick roundup of the fights that are happening this weekend. One thing I've got to say is talking about the Warren show. Yard and Dubois headlining. They're actually headlining at the Royal Albert Hall this Friday, which is, I think, for a long time I haven't seen a Warren show on a Friday night. Does that kind of indicate the levels that boxing is reaching in the UK that we're seeing at Royal Albert Hall, and too mediocre? I'm not disrespecting them, but you know they're not the biggest of names. They're headlining on a Friday.
Again, it's opportunity. Again, it's you know You know, because they've, you know, I think it's live on BT Sport.
BT Sport,
yeah, it's
exactly.
live on BT Sport. Again, it's venues, getting the right venues, it's getting the right promotion. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes to get a show out there of that magnitude. You know, so I think it's great. The Royal Albert Hall has seen some absolute fantastic fights over the years, some classic fights, and I think it's a great amphitheatre for boxing. You know, and it's just, I think the two boys, Dubois and Yardy, now need to be thrust in that limelight, because there's been a lot of talk, a lot of potential, but now is their time. They need to be let loose and to have some proper opponents, and let's see these boys fight.
Agreed.
Do you buy much into the suggestion by Frank Warren that Nathan Gorman and Daniel Dubois are going to fight by the end of this year?
You know, promoters say anything today, and something will change tomorrow. Who knew Tyson Fury was going to sign with Top Rank?
Yeah.
You know, they was one day away from signing the contract with Wilder, and boom. You know,
85 million,
so
80 million,
you know, a promoter's job is to keep everybody relevant. Their fighters relevant. So therefore, if Frank Warren can say A is going to fight B, but it's going to take place in December, and we're in March, it keeps them relevant.
Exactly.
You know, so that's a promoter's job.
Yeah, and just to double onto that, because I was actually going to say, for me, I think Yardy's having that same relevant sort of tactic with the Kovalev fight, because I don't think he's going to be ready to fight Kovalev next, given the level of opponent he's faced in the last 4 or 5 fights.
That's a tough division.
Massively
It's a tough
I mean, the guys.
That's why they're taking their time with Buatsi as well.
Of course,
with Joshua, it wasn't saturated.
Yes.
Buatsi, even domestically,
It's a tough division.
so saturated.
This is what I mean.
But you know what? It's a tough division. But we need to see these boys fight. You know, we need to listen. There's no. You know, there's too much about your fighter having a loss.
Yes, I was just
it's
about to
too
say
much
undefeated.
about having a loss. Listen, if you think he is what he is, and you're a promoter saying that he is what he is, put him in with who he's supposed to be put in with. You know, and let's see them fight. And if he isn't, or if he's not that far down the line, he can still come back. You're a promoter. That's your job. You know, but you're kind of, you know, you're singing from the rooftops that he's this and he's that. But they ain't fighting no one.
Proofs in the pudding.
They ain't fighting no one, you know. So they have to fight, and let's see.
You're saying throw them in the deep end.
Not throw them in the deep end.
Or not in the deep end, push their opponents. But can we make an exception for Daniel Dubois being 21 years old?
I don't think you can.
Listen, I mean, I think the kids, I think he's fantastic. You know, I think he's a really good talent. And I think that, you take it easy with him, but you know, as with those heavyweights, they're so few and far between. There's a big gap between ordinary and, you know, here. There's a big gap. You know, and if you find yourself fighting too many of these down here, when you do come to step up, as David Price found out, you know, all of a sudden that gap you've not. You know,
adjusted well.
You've not adjusted well. I mean, David Price, when he fought Tony Thompson, you know what I mean?
He embarrassed himself. But going there as the Olympics, everyone was raving and shouting, "It's going to be our heavyweight champion in the world." Agree.
And so you have to, you know, again, it's matchmaking. But there comes a point when you have to get him some real tough fights. Get him to go 10 rounds. Get him to go 12 rounds. See how hard how he bites down on his gum shield when he's been spanked and put on the back foot.
Push
you know?
back, and for me, I have to say, I think his opponent Kojano, I think that is a credible step up for Dubois. But I just think it's tricky for him, and I think the Gorman is probably a bit of a tactic. But I think that's the type of fighter he needs. But this performance is going to show, will he be able to match? Because Gorman's very tricky in terms of his movement. He's an intelligent fighter. So Dubois needs to show a bit more than I've got the power. I know how to set traps, which is going to be tough to learn, and put fighters in the corner. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And also he has to fight more regularly.
And I was just going to say, sorry, go on.
I think we can also make a case for Dubois in the case that Anthony Yard's been quite frustrated recently. When he went for the Wilder Fury fight, his fight was cancelled on the week of the fight, I believe itself.
So they say,
And so, obviously, with Buatsi doing what he did against Quinlan, that's always going to be the benchmark, isn't it? Buatsi and Yard, you put the two together. And so, in light of that, do you think that Anthony Yard's going to want to send out a statement, given that there's been a 6-month lapse, not of his own accord, but he feels more pressure?
He's got to send, you know, with Anthony Yard, he's there. He's on the tip of everybody's tongue. But the next step for him like we was talking about, this division is deep.
Yes.
It's deep. So the next step for him is like, it's either world level or just underneath.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to be if you're not fighting regular.
But you have to go there somewhere.
But you have to go there sometime. But, you know, it's a dangerous place to be. So we can put out that statement, but would you put, in light of Kovalev's last performance, would you put him in front of Kovalev? Now?
And he fought Alvarez.
Would you?
No, you wouldn't.
At this moment in time, no. But I also factor in that Yard hasn't had a lot of amateur experience, so I can make a case for wanting to push him slower.
Richard had 12 amateur fights when I saw him.
I think, you know what, for me, I think with the amateur
Case
thing,
closed.
and I do think sometimes, I mean, with me with Yardy, I just think, obviously, Frank Warren's talking about, but he's supposed to do, as you said, this is manager, promoter. But I think once you kind of cross that 15-fight barrier, I think you need to be getting tests, because there's no point in having this, as you said, undefeated record, but you're not challenging yourself. And there's so many killers in all the divisions, across all the belts. He could easily fight someone that's in that 5 to 10, even if he fought Alvarez, who lost... Sullivan Barrera, who lost to Bivol. Do you know what I mean? You can't test the Bivol, the Gavodzics, you know, even a Badu Jack. There's a lot of guys out there. So for me, and I know Yard wouldn't fight him, but there's a lot of guys out there.
There's a lot.
I think he needs to be careful. But just moving on.
Yeah.
We've also got Porter versus Yordenis Ugas, the Colombian-Cuban boxer. What do you guys make of that fight?
I think Porter's a tough fight for anybody.
Yeah.
He's just, he's just rough and ready, you know what I'm saying? And he's just on it, you know what I mean? For it's like one of those horrible guys you just don't want to fight, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they've got him tuned, you know, and I just think that you need to be a skilled boxer to keep that guy off your back, you know what I'm saying? Because I just think he's fit, he's hungry,
strong as well,
strong. You know, he just and he has got some guile to him as well. You know, he's not just come forward. He's got some nice little moves there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I
saw
just
that in the Garcia fight, in my opinion.
That was
a
confidence
different
coming
tactics.
off that fight
exactly,
too.
The confidence.
Did you see? And you see the slight adjustments that he made during the fight, and
exactly.
and Garcia didn't know how to work him out. Garcia didn't know how to work him out.
All Garcia wanted to do was load and just get that left hook out.
The left hook out, you know what I mean? He's worked on a lesser opponent, but I mean, I think Porter is a shoo-in.
So just to get a prediction quickly on that one, Porter, you going for Porter? Porter all round?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then Bivol versus Smith. I just want to say, for me, I think this is going to be a really good fight. Very interesting. Obviously, Smith lost to Barrera, who cracked his jaw when he lost his title. Bivol beat Barrera quite convincingly, in my opinion. So now you're seeing these two guys face up. How are you guys seeing that fight playing out?
I think Bivol wins the fight.
Yeah.
I think he's an exceptional talent. You know, again, from where they are, you know, they're churning these fighters out. You know, and they're not. We don't see them until they're the finished article, and then they're out. You know, and then so I think they're well primed to take this kid a long way.
Yeah. Rafi?
Yeah, I think not just off that benchmark, but he also beat Isaac Chilemba. Yes. And the confidence you'll get from those two names, knowing that the guy you're facing has lost him as well, Barrera.
Yeah.
You put 2 and 2 together, you have to make him odds on.
Yeah.
You have to.
No, definitely. So, guys, listen. Thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure having you on the studio with us today. Before we go, do you want to do your social media handles? Let everyone know where they can find you.
On Twitter, Mickey Moo _
Yep.
And
Instagram,
Streetwise Management.
Facebook,
Streetwise Management at Facebook. I personally don't do Facebook, but Streetwise Management.
The team do.
My partner Ashley does all the social media for us, so she's really good at that.
Shout out to Ashley. She's been really helpful with helping us getting this interview, so really good. Big thanks to her. Looking forward to seeing your guy. If you just want to say his name again, Rolex, on the 16th of March.
Ramesh Mahmood.
He's
fighting, I think it's his 8th fight, and then after that he'll be fighting he's mandatory for the Southern area.
Perfect. So
the mathematician, we call
the mathematician. So guys, make sure you look out for him. We're going to try and get him on the show, even if a phone call
100%.
Before then or after then. We really look forward to that. But just to say thank you once again.
No problem. It's
guys, all the callers, all the listeners, thank you once again. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. All of that is all social. All that social media is Raps on TV. Pleasure as always. Enjoy the boxing, and we'll be back next week. Take care, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.